What's good, Eagles fans? I'm your humble host, Deshields II, and y'all are tuned into another dose of Chalk It Up, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just gotta charge it to the game. Look, y'all, I'm not as emotional as I was last night. I was able to bring my energy down. I was able to sleep on the victory. I was able to sleep on all the different things I noticed in the game, good and bad, and now I can approach it with a clear mind, a clear conscience. Because Lord knows I was snapping on these Eagles. I couldn't even breathe. I was sitting on the edge of my seat. I'm cursing out my dad. I'm cursing out my neighbors. Like, it was just one of them things that this game literally had Eagles fans turning against each other. It was insane. It was a battle royale to the death of word sparring. It was insane. It was insane. But like I said, clear mind, clear conscience, clear heart, and I can talk about this game objectively. Hopefully, I can be unbiased, even though I'm an Eagles fan. Don't really know how that works, but let's just get right into it. So, Doug Peterson, let's just start with you because I look at you as the head. A lot of people like to put the quarterback as the head. Yes, I know he has to execute the plays, but the coach is the catalyst. The coach is the genesis for everything. And let's be frank about Doug Peterson. This season, he has not been calling his best games. Straight like that. No need to get into too much detail. He hasn't been calling his best games. The play calling has been subpar. And as a matter of fact, even in this Giants game, the play calling was subpar. Subpar. Just average. It was too many times where I was literally questioning why we did certain things. And I feel like I do that more times than not. I feel like as a fan, I shouldn't be questioning your play calling at the very least. At the very least. I should be questioning execution. But I question play calling. And as a layman, as your average football fan, your average diehard football fan, there's no reason why I feel like I'm smarter than you at times. There's no reason why I should feel like I could call a better game. Well, I can call a better game in Madden. There's no reason I should ever feel that way. Let's be honest. They started off pretty good. The goal was to get Deshaun Jackson as involved as possible and as early as possible. I understand it. I respect it. And I'm not angry or upset about that whatsoever. I just wish Deshaun Jackson was utilized more on the deep balls. It's not the comeback routes, not the hitch routes. And of course, you know, that swing play, that wraparound play with him got us a first down. You know, that was the very first play of the game. And when I first saw that, I immediately was like, okay, you know, something different. You know, outside of the norm. We normally don't start games like this. I like it. The first drive was pretty clean. It was a pretty clean first drive. Carson ran it in for a touchdown. He was very accurate on the first drive. So everything seemed like, okay, we're going to dominate this game. And then even on defense, when the defense went out there, we dominated them on defense the first go-around. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, we're in control of this game. We're moving the ball. You know? And then all of a sudden, another mishap, another weird play call, another moment of misexecution. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even sure if misexecution is a word, but the lack of execution was evident to the point where as though we found ourselves giving up a deep ball touchdown courtesy of Matt LeBlanc and Golden Tate just manhandling LeBlanc. And it was just really hard. It was just really hard to watch that play. But I was like, okay, that was a fluke. I don't see their defense really. I don't see the Giants offense really doing anything too much but beyond that, anything too creative. I don't really see it. So then after we got that first touchdown, it just seemed like it was so hard for us to score. The play calling just got flat immediately. The play calling just went flat. Completely flat. Wentz started to become inaccurate. It seemed like he didn't seem comfortable. The offensive line started to break down very, very early. Again, offense just couldn't put numbers on the board. if we think about the totality of the game, defense played a decent game. You know, they just had too many moments where they left the game in the balance. Like they gave the Giants too many opportunities to make a play that can shift the entire fabric, shift the entire momentum of the game, right? And that's where I think the defense lacks. The defense lacks continuity on third down. The defense lacks continuity in the red zone. The defense lacks continuity as far as health and who's going to be out there. You know, it's just so many different things, right? So, again, overall, from beginning to end, play calling was subpar. But why does it seem like in the second half, Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson somehow, some way coming together like Voltron, and they're able to just pull off the miraculous? Granted, these past 3 weeks, you know, Giants, Ravens, Steelers were 1 for 3 in terms of fourth quarter comebacks. But let's be honest, Wentz was gutsy in all 3 of those games. He was gutsy. He laid it all out there. He made it clear that we're not going to fold. We're not going to lay down and die. And I gotta respect Wentz for that. But Doug, you have to put your athletes in a better position to succeed, my friend. You had to. And it's so crazy because I know they like playing for you. I know they love playing for you, Doug. I know it. You can tell. You're a player's coach. You played the game. You got a Super Bowl with Green Bay. You know what I'm saying? They respect you. They respect your pedigree. They respect what you bring to the table. They respect your mentality. You know, they respect your moxie. You know, they respect the message you give. And I got to admit, despite the lack of execution, despite all the injuries, despite the boneheaded play calling, despite the lack of discipline on both sides of the ball, somehow, some way, this team stays motivated to fight for their guys. And I got to commend Doug Peterson for that. I have to. I have to commend Doug Peterson for establishing a loose but effective culture. The culture is it's a loose culture, but at the same time, it's a do your job culture. We all we got, we all we need. We got to hold each other down. Family over everything. You know what I'm saying? A culture like that can easily become dysfunctional the moment you run against adversity. But it starts with the head. It starts with the top. If there's dysfunction at the top, it would just trickle down to the bottom. Jeffrey Lurie, great owner. Howie Roseman, remains to be seen. Doug Peterson, right now he's looking very shaky, and it seems like he's regressed as a play caller. But when it comes to culture, message, identity, I feel like those athletes know exactly who their coach is. They love playing for him. And as bad as they look, they clearly want to fight for this man. Just think about the Dallas Cowboys. Think about the dysfunction they're experiencing. And our records are essentially the same. They have more talent. They have less injuries. As a whole, as an organization, they have key injuries. Don't get it twisted. Dak Prescott out. Starting O-lineman out. You know what I'm saying? So they're missing key people. But as overall, they're way healthier than us. All their wide receivers are healthy. Running backs are healthy. You know what I'm saying? For the most part, O-line is healthy. They're just getting older. You know, defense is, for the most part, healthy. For them, they got so many different problems beyond the turf. Play calling seems skeptical. They can't stop a nosebleed. They can't. Their defense just doesn't do anything. And think about the things that they've been doing. They've been going against their coach in the media, all kinds of things, saying that we don't play hard on every play, just saying all kinds of questionable things, right? But think about the Eagles. You can make an argument that they are more dysfunctional at the very moment because of the injuries and Howie Roseman's rumored involvement with personnel decisions on game day and, you know, so many different reasons, right? The Eagles can be way more dysfunctional. They can be, but they're not. And the reason they're not is because Doug Peterson is who he is. Let's be honest. He has not shown himself to be the best play caller. It's obvious. I see it. Y'all see it. The league sees it. But when it comes to establishing a culture, a winning culture, because he got a Super Bowl in his second season, I gotta respect it. Granted, Filippo, Frank Reich was there, but he had to be the spearhead to that. He had to have everyone come together like Voltron. You get me? He's the catalyst behind that. No matter what you may say about his lack of involvement on the play calling when Frank Reich and Filippo was here, I don't care. He's the head. He has to put all those pieces together. He has to bring in his staff. So I got to respect the game, right? I got to respect the game. And I got to respect Doug Peterson for what he does bring to the table. Now, I do think if he's going to take the next step as a coach, he needs to understand his limitations. He needs to understand that he clearly these past 3 seasons, mainly the past 2 seasons, and mainly this season, play calling has been completely flat. And it seems like Wentz has been having to become the most creative as he possibly can in the second half, playing from behind constantly. And then when you incorporate Jim Schwartz into this conversation, right? Not once are we able to play a complete good game of football. If it's not the offense, it's the defense. If it's not defense, it's special team. If it's not special teams, it's penalties. If it's not penalties, it's injuries. You know what I'm saying? It's just so many things that encapsulate the game, and we can't seem to just be flawless all across the board. Now, of course, things happen, but we just can't. It just seems like we can't do our job all across the board from beginning, middle, and end, from all sides of the ball. That's a problem. That's been an Eagles problem for quite some time. The one time that wasn't a problem was our Super Bowl year. And even then we had some doubts because of Carson Wentz's drastic injury. So I'm going to give Doug Peterson somewhat the benefit of the doubt. Same thing with Jim Schwartz, because Jim Schwartz called a pretty decent game. But nonetheless, it's the New York Giants, and we should not have struggled the way we did. It's just that simple. We should not have struggled the way we did. We should have never struggled the way we did. Never. It's the New York Giants. Their quarterback is Daniel Jones, and they did not have Saquon Barkley. 150 rushing yards. We gave up 150 rushing yards. Most of those rushing yards was one play, the 80-yarder by Daniel Jones. But then in the second half, the boy Gollum Jr., the running back for the Giants, just start going off. And it seemed like it was so hard for us to just stop him. And then we got lucky with Evan Ingram dropping that ball. Let's be totally real. Jim Schwartz, I know you love certain guys on his defense, but I think it's time to move on from certain people because it seems like they're just not taking the next step. The biggest thing is you can be great at one moment, but that's not greatness. That's an admiration. In order to be great, greatness and consistency coincide. You cannot be great without consistency. That's the biggest thing. I heard that from my man Stout, old line coach for the Eagles. Yeah, I can teach you all the fundamentals. Yeah, I can teach you whatever I show you. You can do it right this one time, but consistency is when you be great. Consistency is where you earn your money. You know what I'm saying? We have to be consistent as an organization. We have to be consistent as a coaching staff. We have to be consistent as a team. That game was so up and down, so inconsistent for not only Doug Peterson, not only Jim Schwartz, but for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz has been, in my humble opinion, not living up to the hype, not living up to expectation. Now, let's be totally real. Let's tell the whole story. Carson Wentz has been without all of his starters besides Jason Kelce on the offense for the most part, especially in this game. The only starters on the field were Carson Wentz, Jason Kelce, Deshaun Jackson, and Lane Johnson. Deshaun Jackson and Lane Johnson left the game. So at that point, back to square one. Carson Wentz and Jason Kelce. Carson Wentz having to be Superman. You know what I'm saying? And it's times where I look at Wentz and I'm like, okay, this is a simple play. You don't got to be extravagant here. But he understands and he sees the game like he wants to be so explosive. He's a playmaking type of quarterback, right? There's different types of quarterback in this league. You know, there's your dink and dunk quarterback. You know, there's your system quarterbacks, you know, short, intermediate routes, you know, letting their wide receivers and skill position players do most of the work. And then, you know, you have your mobile quarterbacks. You know, essentially you have your field generals, you have your improvisers, you have your scramblers. You know what I'm saying? And Wentz is in that improviser realm. He needs to become a field general more so than anything. He has improviser down pat. That's who he is. He's an improviser. He likes to make plays on the run. He's a big play kind of guy. When he sees something, he likes to take it. And he doesn't care about the risk. People put him in the same ilk as Ben Roethlisberger coming up and Brett Favre coming up. Granted, those guys are legendary and Hall of Famers. But Carson Wentz has tendencies about him that put him in that same vein, and he needs to learn how to master those tendencies. It's just that simple. Granted, he came back 2 touchdown drives, scored 12 straight points in under 5 minutes. I got to respect the game. But Carson Wentz, you have to be a better decision maker. That interception you threw should not have happened. Should not have happened. You got to throw better. You got to throw better balls. You got to put your receivers in better positions to succeed. You should not be throwing across your body from one side of the field to the other. You should not be doing that. Like your greatest asset should not become the liability. Your greatest asset should not become the liability, Carson. Your greatest asset should not become the liability, Carson. Okay? I want to say it again. Your greatest asset should not become your greatest liability. And with great power comes great responsibility. Great responsibility. I want to shout out Travis Fulgham, Boston Scott. You know what I'm saying? Greg Ward, Richard Rodgers, even D-Jack, man. Praise to D-Jack. He didn't deserve that. Long way back. He was productive early on. Dirty hit. Goes out with a knee injury or ankle injury, I believe. Going to be out indefinitely. They put him on IR. We don't know when he's coming back, but they say he could possibly make it back to the end of the season, for the end of the season. But honestly, I feel bad for this guy, man. Grinded to get back, and this is how it happens. It wasn't even his fault. It wasn't even his fault. I low-key put some of the blame on Doug because Doug, in my opinion, shouldn't have had him in the punt return. That's just my opinion. I don't think Doug should have put Deshaun Jackson back to the return punts knowing his injury history. At this point in his career, he's not returning any more punts. I know how dynamic he is. I know how good he is. I know how talented and fast he is. But he cannot be the one out there making those kind of plays. He just can't. Same thing with Carson Wentz. He can't keep taking these kind of hits. It's going to catch up. It will catch up. He cannot continue to take these kind of hits. We need a power back. Why aren't you bringing up Elijah Holyfield? You had 3 scat backs back there. Boston Scott, Corey Clement, and Huntley. Corey Clement was non-existent. Huntley had more of an impact than him, even though he had way less touches. But Boston Scott was the guy, really. But we need a power back to get those short yardage situations. That's where we're missing guys like Jordan Howard, LeGarrette Blount. Even Jay Ajayi, he wasn't necessarily a power back, but he was a combo type of back. Balanced, elusive, and he had a good combination of power. So that's what we're missing. We're missing that 1-2 punch in the running back room. And I think that's where Elijah Holyfield needs to come in. Elijah Holyfield needs to get touches. I would put him above Huntley because what you have in Huntley, you had that in Boston Scott and Corey Clement. Unless you just move Corey Clement down, because let's be honest, I know he was pivotal in the Super Bowl year, but he hasn't shown us anything since then. He's very young, but he hasn't shown us anything since then. So get Elijah Holyfield the ball, let him do his thing. We need someone who's going to get those short yardage situations, point blank and period. I'm tired of the quarterback sneaks. I'm tired of the fake read options. It's just they see it. We're not good at it. They see it. Stop it. Just stop it. I don't think Jalen Hurts was on the field enough for me. I don't think they drew up enough plays for me. They say when they drafted him, we got so many packages for him. I can't tell. A lot of the plays are starting to look the same. So, Doug, Jim Schwartz, Carson Wentz, the bona fide 3 heads to this monster that we've created. We need you guys to tighten up, be the best version of yourselves, lead by example, and hold not only yourself, but everybody accountable and understand your limitations. The strongest thing about a man is to know his limitations, to know what you can and cannot do. Now, I'm not saying to fear the impossible. I'm not saying anything is impossible, but it's wise to know your limitations. It's wise to not overshoot your mark, Carson. It's very wise to do that, or not do that, rather. I'm Tony Deshields II. Y'all was tuned into another episode of Chalk It Up, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Listen, you guys, I'm so grateful that y'all tuned in. I'm so humbled. I love you guys. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to content. Listen, man, these Eagles, they're going to be the death of us. One love, fly, Eagles, fly.